Okay, uh, I just want to say what an honor it is for me to be here. I've been to a lot of conferences, and this one in particular, because there's so many dietitians and nutritionists and women and non-Aboriginals, I feel from listening to all the speakers, it's really inspiring. Not just the eloquence that each speaker has, but the knowledge. And I've been able to soak it all in. It's a real, it's like a muscle, exercising that being present. So I didn't sleep last night because I don't drink coffee, and last night I drank coffee at 9 o'clock, and I didn't sleep all night. So, but I've been practicing being present. I didn't know what being present was in my life till I went on my journey. And then when I went on my journey, I became present, so I realized I lived my whole life not being present, which means I'm here with you right now. I'm not, well, I'm actually kind of thinking about that lunch because I'm hungry, but I'm here with you, and I'm not, so I ask you to try to exercise it like a muscle. You got to practice it, and it gets better, because we all got things to think about. So if you could just refrain from texting or Facebooking and stuff, just for the time that I have. The first part, at one point, I'm going to tell Matt to stop recording. So I ask all the venues I speak at not to video audio record my sharing, because it's a real personal, it's real personal and challenging sometimes. I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. An elder told me not to write things down and just to speak from my heart. I got a PowerPoint together. I just slapped some images to go along with what I thought might keep people's interest, but I could do it without the PowerPoint. It's more like a photo album to give you a little clearer picture of who I am. So I'm going to talk about who I am. me. And I'm going to talk, I know I'm going to be talking about traditional foods and what I did during the journey. The first part is I'm going to talk about me and where I come from. And where I come from is what all the speakers have shared so far. I'm in shock. Everything I'm going to talk about, they've already shared with you. I'm just sharing a personal account. So I'm really excited, and I'm honored to be here. My vision, and in my apartment, my whole floor was filled with bottles, big black bottles of Maximum Ice. And you had to maneuver yourself to get, that's how much bottles there was. And it looked like a little army of darkness, when I think about it. So I was on my bed, and I was sleeping like this. And then I opened my eyes, and I started rising like this. And I went, I looked at my hands, and then I looked at myself, and I was sleeping, and I was floating up. And it really scared me because I couldn't talk. I was paralyzed. In my head, I'm going, it's just a dream, it's just a dream, it's just a dream. My heart was pounding. I had cold flashes running through me. And I was floating away, and I was trying desperately hard to not float from my body. And I wasn't sure if I was dreaming. I wasn't sure if somebody slipped me acid. I didn't know what was going on. And the bedroom wall was coming closer, and I was scared, what's beyond the wall, right? So when I started floating to the wall, I went like this, and my hand went through, I went like that, and I was fighting to get to my body. I just kept getting closer, and finally when I got to the wall, I had to look. So I looked, I stuck my head in, And when I looked, it was space. I saw forever. And then when I turned around to look back at my body, I saw Mother Earth floating in front of me like the photo from the moon. And I was floating there. And I was saying to myself, thinking to myself during this thing, did I just die? Did I just have a heart attack like my doctor said? Because that summer that oh, yeah, you're right. So when I hit rock bottom that time, my doctor basically said, after a physical, I want you to come back and do another blood test because there's something wrong with something's not right. We think you may come back and do a blood test. So I did, and sure enough, it was hyperlipidemia, and if you don't know what that is, it's the bad cholesterol around the organs and stuff. It wasn't good. My eyes were yellow. I looked about 8 months pregnant, like, that photo of Demi Moore on the cover of Vanity Fair? That's how I looked, and it wasn't pretty. And so that's me just before I ended my job. I'm not, I guess I'm not too far from getting back to it because I did it for a year and now I'm going to be starting it again. This time, this was for the documentary and the promise I gave to the universe. Aya, Manitou. The promise I made during, because when I woke up from my vision, because I was looking at Mother Earth and I was saying, I didn't even get a chance to be happy. I didn't get a chance to do my paintings that I wanted to do since I was a little boy. I always wanted to be a famous painter. I wanted to be a movie star. I wanted to work in films. I wanted to have a six-pack for once. I haven't fallen in love yet. And I was looking at Mother Earth, and I was thinking of the kids from Pekanjikam, and that year, 31 kids committed suicide at one time, the youngest being 10. And I was drinking that year, like I said before, the vision and stuff, and that haunted me. That news, it haunted me. And I thought, there's something not right here. There's something wrong. Why are my people killing themselves? There's something, why am I killing myself, right? And I woke up and dropped to I cried in the fetal position. The sun started to rise from the east. It broke through a little hole in one of the black garbage bags, and it shone on me, this little tiny ray of light. So I sat on my bed, and this little light was shining on me. I could see it because it was so dusty, right? And I suddenly felt good. Like I wasn't hungover. I didn't want to smoke a cigarette. I didn't want to drink beer. I wasn't hungry. And I felt good. Like I was sitting there, I couldn't cry anymore, and I was like, I felt a presence, that same presence that I felt when I was in my vision, telling Creator before I woke up, if you give me one more chance, I won't make any promises because I've been clean before, but I promise I'll start to love myself. At least I'll take more care for me for the first time in my life. Because I spent my whole life trying to take care of everybody else, right? And I never really liked myself. So I woke up, and that's when I decided, I'm going to make myself happy. I'm going to do what makes me happy. And I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care. I'm going to do all the things I said I want to do. And I thought, I'll kill two birds with one stone. because I was like, I wonder what my life would look like if I just removed alcohol. If I just did that one thing, what would it look like, I thought. And I thought, I wonder what would happen if I quit pot and quit cigarettes. And then I got angry, and I said to the Creator, I wonder what would happen if I took out all this shit that was brought over. I was so angry, and I said, that's it. That's when I had my little light bulb. And I thought, I'm going to make a documentary, and for 1 year, I'm going to eat the foods that my ancestors ate pre-contact. I'm only going to put that in my mouth, nothing else. No cow, no pig, no chicken, no processed foods, nothing from a box, nothing from a can. Only if it's from a tree, only if it's from the water, only if it's from the ground, and only if it's from North America, not Central America, not South America. So no emu, you know. Tomatoes are South American, no tomatoes, no potatoes. Just what I remember eating growing up in Duck Bay: moose, deer, duck, rabbit. I tried to find some books, websites. There wasn't one place I could go to, and there was a lot of contradicting information. So I had to find out on my own. And I had to triple check, because people who were claiming to be experts were wrong. Someone told me beets were native. They weren't. And I was very angry, because it was really tough the first month of this diet I put myself on. I was very emotional. My friend Tony was filming me, and she said, "And tell them how bitchy you are," she said. So the first 4 weeks was really hard. It took me 3 weeks to start tasting, because I went cold turkey, and I took out table salt. We don't need it. There's natural sodium. You know, we weren't walking around with little salt shakers back in the day. I started learning things from the path I was walking, and I started realizing no one was doing it, but I knew that because of this vision that I had to do it, because the voice, the being, the feeling I got was, if you don't do this, you're never going to find peace in your life. You're never going to find rest. If you do this, your life is going to be amazing. And I felt like, wow, I'm going to see the world and stuff. And it's already happening, and I haven't even finished the documentary, but I did that promise that I made. So on September 21st, 2010, or the 20th at the stroke of midnight, I went cold turkey. So I wouldn't recommend that. I'm also going to talk about baby steps, because I know it seems like such a giant feat from what, like, I can't do that, right? Yeah, you can. I did it. No one helped me. CBC didn't help me. National Film Board of Canada didn't want to help me. APTN didn't want to help me. Nobody wanted to help me. And I was like, I don't need you. I'm doing this. And it took me 3 years from 2007 to get to this point, because everything that could stand in my way came in my way, and that included being laid off 1 month before that date. So I worked really hard to make this happen. And I did it. I did it. So at 5 days, I had a nervous breakdown. 3, and I don't know if I could do this. It's only 5 days, and I want to lick the curb, because I was a saltaholic, I was craving salt. I was smelling French fries from a mile away. I was smelling the food people eating coming out of their pores. Basically what happened, because I went cold turkey from today's diet to my ancestors' diet, literally like that overnight, is my body went into shock, and I didn't know about it. Like I said, I'm not like, I don't have a degree in nutrition or diet, all that stuff. My body went into shock from the withdrawals and the detoxification, because I also quit Tim Hortons Triple Triple. When you work in an office and you're stressed out, you drink a lot of Triple Triples. And so I was detoxing from the marijuana. I was in shock. 3 weeks into it, I felt hope, because I started tasting food. I started tasting the buffalo, the fish, the wild rice, the squash, the corn, the nuts and the seeds. I started tasting it, and I was like, this is good, and I'm going to be okay. Miigwech, right? So I put the picture of the white buffalo, because I ate buffalo. I ate moose. I didn't eat raven. I only put the white animals because of the 7th generation prophecy. And to make a long story short, I'm the 7th generation. And it's the artists, which I am, that are supposed to be the beginning of this, not the end, but the new beginning. So I really believe that's why I'm doing this. It's one of my, not just me, but there's a lot of 7th generation people. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So I started eating berries every day. Sometimes in a smoothie, I would mix it with pure cranberry juice and water, 3 parts water. And I'd put in as much berries depending on how thick I wanted it. And I carried around a Tupperware about this long, and I just drank it. Or I just ate berries when I was hungry. Salmon. I never ate fishy things before this. Ugh, anything like lobster, right? I love seafood now. You'd be surprised. What do they say? I'm so hungry I could eat a skunk's arsehole. Yeah. When you're hungry, you'll eat anything, and I'm so happy because now I love seafood, right? I didn't eat bear, of course. Turkey, I discovered turkey on Thanksgiving, which was about 5 weeks into the diet on Thanksgiving. So everyone's having their turkey dinner, and all I could eat at this point was corn and strawberries. But I was like, oh, I had my wild rice with me, right? Some nuts and seeds. And then my friend said, how come you're not eating any turkey? I'm like, well, it's not native. Yes, it is. I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, it is. Go Google it. I said, okay. So I went and Googled it, and sure enough, turkey's native. I ate most of that turkey. And it became one of my staples for the journey, just because it's readily available. I thought the documentary would be on the back of the DVD, one man's journey eating the foods of his native North American ancestors while living in the metropolis in the 21st century, right? It was easy. It was all at St. Lawrence Market. So the journey was not what I thought it was going to be. Not at all. I knew I'd probably lose some weight. I knew my cystic acne would probably disappear. I knew certain things might happen, right? I didn't know I'd become present. I didn't know I'd be here. I didn't know when I'd go to New Zealand. I didn't know where I was when I was in New Zealand. I just knew it was a 23-hour plane ride. I was like, where are we? I was in Bluff, the southern tip of New Zealand. And they said, well, on a clear day, you could see Antarctica. And penguins come here sometime. I was like, I'm on the other side of the world. This is crazy, right? And so things did happen. I used maple syrup. Mint is native, so that became my beverage. I stopped using honey because someone on Facebook told me honeybees were brought by Europeans, which is true. And we did have honey. Someone was pollinating the flowers, right? But not in that capacity, the production-wise. And we don't have like a lot of songs or ceremonies or in our language about honey, so it wasn't really a traditional. I'm sure one of us stumbled upon a hive when we were in the bush, like the bears, but it wasn't like per se, part of our native diet. So I used maple syrup, and so good. Wild rice every day. That was my staple. And contrary to popular belief, we weren't big meat eaters. And another thing that I've learned from a lot of people on this journey, other native people like Mitch Baird and the paleo diet, Mitch has taught me a lot. And historically, obesity was non-existent in North America pre-contact. We were a very fit and athletic race of people. Diabetes wasn't even heard of. We were connected with nature, Yeah, we got these Hollywood romanticized Snow White thing, but it was like that. We connected. We didn't eat meat. We ate meat, but there's a word for it. Today, where I come from, in my dialect of Ojibwe back home in Duck Bay, I can't even say it. I can understand my language fluently because I listen, but I've still yet to get it out. But the word for hunting, it doesn't mean hunting. That's what people translate it today. That word means the life being given for hours. And it was ceremonial. We gave thanks and nothing went to waste. So I started learning about this. And the weight, after 1 month, I started seeing my cheekbones. Like right here, when I looked in the mirror, I was like, hey. I was like getting my cheekbones back. I had a jawline. I took a day off work one time. I think it was about 3 months into my diet. And I was watching Dr. Oz, and the episode was about superfoods. And Dr. Oz started uncovering these superfoods. It was wild rice, salmon, blueberries. Everything that he uncovered, I was eating at that exact moment. And so I looked up I don't know why I always look up, but I just went, is this another sign? I think like I'm on the right track. I'm eating superfoods, right? Sunflower seeds is like meat, so we didn't have to really eat meat. Blending like the Three Sisters, beans, you create a complete protein. I'm having a hard time speak like this because I got to get the terminology correct. I should take some classes. Can anyone help me? And I discovered the trick to not going crazy, to not crave, was at the 3-month point. My doctors at St. Michael's Hospitals took my blood test every 3 months. They weighed me. It was filmed for the documentary. They're backing me up because of what happened as a result of eating like my ancestors. And so yeah, at 3 months I discovered the trick was to keep eating. And I discovered that breakfast and lunch and dinner is a concept. We didn't eat like that. We weren't gathering around the teepee at noon and having little appetizers with our little salt shakers. We didn't eat like that. We listened to our bodies because we were connected. We were connected to the land. We still are. I still have it in me, even though I was raised in a city and I was grown up Catholic and experienced all that. I have the spirit of my ancestors in me, my Anishinaabe ancestors, and it's strong. And I've always had it now when I look back at all the nightmares. Those weren't nightmares, those were visitors. I was just scared because I was a little boy, because they happen now once in a while in my dreams. I have lucid and vivid dreams, and not a lot of people have that. Last night I dreamt of my mom, and I only had like about 2 hours of sleep. I don't know what I dreamt about because I was so worried about whether I was going to sleep in today, and So what I learned was to take risks. I'm the one who went to those auditions. I'm the one who got myself on stage at 10 years old. I'm the one who ran away to Lake Louise. I'm the one who took that first step. I learned to let go of that garbage. Someone said, "Do you take your garbage to bed with you every night?" I said, "No." "Well, you are. Why are you doing that to yourself? Let it go." So I let it go. I love my family. I got no room in my heart for hate. None. And I had to eat like my ancestors to get to this place. I became clean. I didn't even have, I had a lower gastrointestinal activity. My acne cleared, like I said, I had cystic acne. My nails started growing, and they were really hard to cut. These are just some of the physical stuff. My allergies disappeared that year. I didn't get no allergies. Flu season, I was surrounded by sick, sneezing, snotty people. I didn't get sick. As a result of removing the cow, the pig, and the chicken from my diet, which is the staple of our society today, I removed the antibiotics, the hormones, and the steroids. So my immune system got strong. I don't have the medical background but I got some doctors ready to back me up. So it just kind of makes sense to me. I was doing this all naive, right? And the best part, of course, is being able to trust myself, because I was my worst enemy, right? And I'm empowered because I'm here. I'm like I'm not living the glamorous life, right? But I'm traveling. Oh. So this is a documentary called Not a Good Day to Die. I have 1 year of footage. I don't have money to complete it, to edit it, to get it out to the film festivals that are phoning me, like Winnipeg Film Festival. We'd like to highlight your documentary at our film festival this year. Like, great! It's not finished yet. And so right now, that's where I'm at this point, is just trying to find money. And speaking engagements, I'm here. It's already happening. I thought it was gonna happen after the documentary, but it's already happening. So that's a good sign. So imagine when it comes out, it's gonna be really big, because it's not a native thing. It's a human thing. We're all children of the earth, and everything you're talking about today about non-processed foods, genetically modified foods, food security, insecurity, all this stuff. This is, I need to get this message out to the masses. And even if I have to do it all myself and get Final Cut Pro and a Macintosh computer, I'll do it. Money's not going to stop me. If I have to go to all the First Nations reservations myself and hand it by hand for free, I'll do that. So nothing's going to stop me. I'm doing all this to ask for help, not financially, but just spiritually, your support. And I feel you're all listening right now, so it's kind of cool. 6 months into my diet, George Brown College emailed me, someone from George Brown, and they wanted me to model for their digital photography class. And I'm like, model? I'm like in my 40s. And they want me to model? So I said, okay, because they're going to pay me, right? So that day I had, like, I think 16 photographers, and it was an 8-hour photo shoot. I got to do my Zoolander and do all that stuff, right? And I pretty much plateaued at 145 pounds, which was 80 pounds from the time my doctor said I was obese, to finding the fountain of youth, because at that point I felt old, I'm awash, I'm fat, I'm a has-been, I could have been, you know. And then after I started eating like my ancestors, I became young again, and I was able to run because I was taking escalators, right? And not only that, but just because of my personal history, to feel it's important for me to not feel ugly on the outside, because in the mid 90s when I was in Europe, I thought they were just taking all those pictures of me because I was an Indian, you know, like a novelty. And now I don't feel ugly. I don't think like I'm GQ cover material, but I don't feel ugly anymore. And it's good for me, coming from where I come from, to feel that way. So that was when I quit, just before I went on my little retreat for 1 year in my dark basement. And I'm just glad I'm not that guy. I started drawing again. This is my friend. So after my artistic talents lay dormant for 20 years, I started drawing again. Pencil crayons. This is a native rapper. I have my own style of art. So I want to do all the native rappers in North America. I want to be that artist that does all of them. And these are my first paintings. I can do portraits and stuff like that too, but this is kind of like what interests me. My passions all came back, let's put it that way. All this stuff I still wanted to do, I started doing. Including chair massage. I invested in myself financially, and I've been trained twice, so I got magic hands, and I'm really good. I put 2 raptors to sleep at the Sheraton Hotel. I did 16 people one day. 2 were raptors, the basketball players. They were easy because they were like anatomy charts, so it was like, oh, this is easy, right? Yeah, and one of them, when he came out, put his head up, so you got to go, okay, we are done, slowly, put, like if they're not. He whipped up his head, and his spit went flying everywhere. And he just looking at me like, I take pride in making people slobber. And I want you guys to write down my email address. Like I said, I don't promote myself. I don't have business cards. I get all these gigs through word of mouth. If you want me to come to your community, right now at this point, it's my only source of income, which is fine because it's hard to find a job that will leave you free to travel whenever you please, right? And it's just hard to find a job in Toronto right now. I don't have the education that I probably should. And on Facebook, add me. I got a lot of followers. And I just want to say miigwech. And we have about 15 minutes if you guys want to ask me questions. Miigwech. Thank you. That's what I have to share.
So we can have a few minutes just for some questions. If anybody has questions or comments or anything you want to share with Bossy, please step up to the mic. No, it's all still sinking in. It's always wonderful to hear you speak. This is the second time that I've heard you, and your story is still inspiring every time that I hear it. And
oh, good, a question. I never get people asking me questions.
Miigwech. I guess one of my questions is, and thank you so much, that was great. I have so many ideas how we can include you in a lot of our programming at Six Nations, and hopefully we'll see you in the near future. But one question that I think a lot of people may ask would be, was it expensive? So,
that's the question that I get all the time. And it was, and unfortunately, it seems like we're set up for failure, and because I'm in Toronto and it was still expensive. Like I said, I got laid off, so I decided when I started my journey, I went to labor ready. So I woke up at 3 a.m. I became a morning person, which was easy. It went well with the journey I was on. And I worked my ass off to get the money. So each day I would buy fresh berries and wild rice and the meats that I needed. And I lived out of a slow cooker, so it's not like I went out hunting and cooking over an open fire in downtown Toronto. No, I used, slow cooker, microwave, stove, stuff like that. But yes, it's more expensive, unfortunately.
did you keep track of how much
I
it
have
cost?
all the receipts for that year in a bag. I just didn't have time to.
Okay.
Too lazy to.
Well, just even in comparison to the one presentation this morning, and what was it, 226 for a family of 4? There's one. But per week. So would you figure in and around, break that down for one person, so in and around like $70 a week, or do you think it would have been exponentially a lot more, or is it hard
Well,
to
let's
say?
see. Wild rice was cheap because I bought it from Nietzsche Foods in Winnipeg, and I bought in bulk. And my family and friends gave me, so that wasn't real expense. And it's cheaper. It's half the price in Winnipeg than it is in Toronto. And also, I tried to eat fresh berries every day. It wasn't always organic, and it wasn't always wild, and sometimes it was frozen. So genetically modified, but it was still, I had to compromise because this is what we live in, unfortunately. No milk, of course. The dairy industry is not going to like my documentary. I'm going to go in hiding in Europe when it comes out. So each day I try to get like a pound of strawberries or fresh blueberries. That was my daily thing, was buying the berries and buying a piece of meat. So a salmon fillet from No Frills, and I preferred to go to St. Lawrence Market because it says wild, but who knows what wild is anymore. It was about $10. But it was my treat that I gave myself. I bought half an elk from an elk farmer because his sign said no steroids, no hormones, no antibiotics. Cost me $500, and that fed me for about 3 months. Also St. Lawrence Market, and then the local farmers markets. And so there'd be people like maple syrup candies and stuff like that. But I think maybe I should probably buckle down and with my receipts and put it on my blog and let people see for themselves. But yeah.
But I think, it'd be neat to compare it even. Like in theory, it seems expensive, but all the strategies you're saying, the bulk buying, donated meats, or pairing up with hunters, preserving, freezing, canning, all those things we can do when berries are in season, comparing that to the amount of cigarettes, alcohol, fast food. And that's where I think that comparison would be really visual for people, because then everyone says, oh, it's too expensive, I can't eat like that, or I can't go to St. Lawrence Market, or what have you. But when you compare it to what you were doing before, I bet you there's not much of a difference. Or if not, it may even come out in the long run less expensive. And I think people need to hear that, because that's one of the biggest barriers we come into, right?
Yeah, access. And because, like where I come from in Duck Bay, they're not going to have access to squash and stuff like that. But yeah, I think I have to do that to kind of give people an idea. But I did it.
Thanks very much. I have a quick question. I was just wondering if you could speak to how Maori people responded to your talk.
The Maori people? Wow. The first speaking engagement I had was in Wellington. And I got off the plane. They took me, they asked me if I wanted to sleep. I went straight to the museum. I don't know why, but I thought Maori people were little people. They're not. They're big. And a guy came up to me. They introduced me at the museum and came right like this to me, and he was coming down. So I was like, oh no, I guess this is what they do, right? But they do the hongi, which is a cultural greeting where you breathe in the breath of life with one another. It's an ancestral thing. And he thought I was Maori. I was ready to get puckered right up. But they told me right away what it was, because it's kind of scary. But I got used to that. So that culture is so rich, and they still got their language. But in the 22 speaking engagements that I did, because of their culture, they would sing me in. Like I'd be outside, I'd be by the trees. The family house that's hosting this particular community, it's something like this, with all their ancestral stuff of their particular clan. They would sing me in, and I'd have the community that's coming to listen to me watch behind me. And I was really overwhelmed that I was in tears, because it was so. Then they'd sing, and they'd do, they'd be like, and they do the haka, right? And it was amazing. And I didn't feel worthy, you know, like, because I'm walking in and everyone's like, I felt like the queen, right? And, but they told me that I am worthy. And they said, if it makes you feel any better, we're welcoming your ancestors because they're with you right now. And so that made it easier for me because I felt my ancestors with me after that. And in a few of the communities, a couple of the people said they've seen a white wolf beside me, which is really weird. I mean, it's not weird. They're very spiritual people. They're very much like our people. And they've got a beautiful culture. And I haven't even had time to totally reflect on my experience because my grandma passed away a couple of days before I returned. So I came back to straight to a funeral from the airport to do a eulogy. So it was hard because I was mourning because she raised me till I was 7. And so I didn't really have time to reflect. But all I know is the Maori, because one of the things that they kept saying, aside from having a lineup of people that want to come and hug me, they all said pretty much the same thing. You've told my story. You've told my story. You've told my story. That's the main thing that I heard. And they brought me out there, like I said, because I'm exotic. And regarding the internalized racism, they brought me out there because they said they'll listen to me because they won't listen to their own. So it was amazing. I can't wait to go back. This time I'm just going to go and have fun because there was no downtime. So I want to, like, you know, dance and stuff.
Thank you.